Are we ready? You don't have to live with pain or chronic neuro issues any longer. In this podcast, you will learn how to stabilize your brain, body, and biochemistry for the rest of your life. I'm Dr. Teams, and this is the Neuro Reset Podcast. Okay. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Neuro Reset Podcast. We have another special guest. I guess they're all special, aren't they?
Should be.
And we have John actually joined us here from Florida for 3 weeks. So we're at the end of an intensive. And we've had some really cool stuff going on. You guys know how this goes. They will share as much as they would like. But in general, the stuff that we are trying to share is the stuff they were dealing with, why they came here, what brought them here, what their experience has been like, and then we compare kind of before you started, what life was like before you started, to life after, okay? So with no further ado, we'll welcome John. Thanks for doing this.
Of course.
He's no stranger to a microphone, by the way. He used to be in a band, and so, but he might have just been the guy that goes, yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So welcome, John. Thanks for doing this.
Of course,
I appreciate you letting me twist your arm and get this thing in. So,
Of course.
So tell us a little bit about, kind of a general, what have you been dealing with that made you call us?
Yeah, so I've struggled with anxiety and depression kind of throughout my life, but really within the last year and a half, saw an uptick in that and started to really present itself in some physical symptoms as well, which was tough. And so, that started to affect life and work, and kind of got to a point where, we tried some other things, some different doctors, trying to figure out what was going on, and never really had any good answers. And so had somebody recommend this to give it a go, and definitely glad I did. So.
Okay, awesome. How comfortable do you feel describing some of the stuff that you have experienced, like the symptoms and things like that?
Yeah, it really started to, especially the last 3 or 4 weeks before I started treatment, really presented itself as waking up basically straight with what felt like a panic attack in the mornings that could trickle down into some pretty bad nausea, vomiting, and would turn into really pretty much a spiral of being not able to work, not able to really do anything for hours on it. And so, it was pretty tough.
That sucks.
Yeah,
to say it lightly. So at least for 3 to 4 weeks, waking up, panic attack, throwing up. Right? Was sleep any good?
Terrible sleep. I'd usually wake up probably anywhere from 2 to 4 in the morning. Couldn't fall back asleep, and then right away is kind of when I would spiral from there. So,
got it.
So lots of no sleeping nights.
For sure. And what happens when people aren't sleeping is essentially you're not repairing, right? So you're trying to play catch up, like with one arm, if not both arms, and maybe even your feet tied together. Like tied behind your back kind of thing. And so sleep is super important to trying to recover. So we've got this vomiting thing, we got this anxiety, we have digestive related issues too. Would it start with the like anxiety and then turn into the gut stuff, or a little of both, or you didn't know what was what?
But it usually would start with kind of the anxiety and then trickle into some pretty bad stomach.
Yeah. That it's not uncommon to hear that. We hear it kind of throughout everybody's life, from young adults to people that are retiring or retired. It's like it can happen at any time. So what I'll do is I'll give a little bit of a teaser, but we don't have to go into detail on this specifically. But how long ago was it that so basically a big trauma happened in the last, like with the overseas stuff?
Yeah, probably now it's been 5 or 6 years.
So 5 or 6 years ago, he dealt with a pretty big trauma, we'll call it. And I would imagine, and things like started to increase after that, but nothing really like what you're describing now. Did it just kind of slowly come on?
Yeah, looking back at it, definitely kind of just ramped itself up. We used to live in Chicago and definitely had some symptoms starting to pop in, but it wasn't as frequent as it had become within the last couple of months.
Okay, gotcha. So for what it's worth, he's been, I think we met in like November? October, November, December, something like that. It was late last year. You actually had to come in for an eval so that we could get enough, I guess, proof to get time off so you could come here, right? And like kudos to your, it's like kudos to work for allowing that to happen and then getting you to this place. But at the same time, as a business, they're like, I don't want one of our best employees to be off for 3 weeks, right? It's like, but we also want you to get better. So, it's tough as a business following protocols and all that stuff. But at least we were able to get this done, right? 100%. And so, for me, it's tough because I wish we could have done this back then. It's like we wouldn't have had to wait another 5 or 6 months, but at least we got it done. Yep. Right. So when you came into the office, what percentage of function would you say that you were at?
Yeah, I would say probably hovering in the 30% range. Okay. I could make it work, but it was a struggle pretty much every day.
Yeah. Would you have to leave work?
Yeah, and that's one of the big reasons this was a great thing is I was starting to miss work pretty frequently. And my boss was great about it. He understood. But at the same time, like you're just saying, they have to run a business.
Right.
It's not great to be having to call off all the time.
Sure.
And so yeah, it definitely trickled in and definitely was affecting things.
Yeah. So with regards to that 30%, let's see. What did you think you were getting into at 30%, flying across the country to get treatment for 3 weeks straight? Like, what was going through your head? Damn, this better work.
Yeah, pretty much. Because again, and my wife can attest to this too. She has some health issues, and we've tried multiple doctors, multiple approaches, and never really found anything. And so it's kind of in that mentality too of we've tried different people, different approaches, nothing's really worked. So is this just going to be another, here we go, let's try it out, doesn't work thing, or is it going to work? And so there was a lot of positive and negative emotions.
Just back and forth, I'm sure. Yeah. And, what you're describing is what probably anybody out there is going to tell. They're going to say the same thing. I've been to this many doctors. Everybody says they can help. Why are you any different? Mm-hmm. Right. And, it's like for us, I can only imagine that every doctor gets asked that, and every doctor is going to say the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, we're just going to do it different. And here's how we're going to do it. And I promise you that we've seen so many other people just like you, and I know it's going to help. I know we can help you. Mm-hmm. Right. It's like, I'm sure you've heard that before.
Oh yeah.
So what was different? And this is where we're kind of like, we talked a little before this. This is where I want to veer a little bit. What's different? Well, before we get there, so 3 weeks ago, you came in at about 30%. Where are you now?
I would put myself probably in the 80s for sure.
And so what was the difference to go from 30% to 80% in 3 weeks? What did we do differently to help these folks understand that we're not like these other docs that claim these things?
For me, and my wife was here for the first week with me, which was great. And one of the first things we talked about after we left the first day was just, quite honestly, just the, if you want to call it the vibe of this place, just felt different. All of you guys seem to care, which sometimes you'll walk into places and it just feels like you're a number. And so just all of the staff here is incredible. And so I think that, at least for me, and I'm sure it has for other people, is just puts you at ease to kind of be able to accept what's going on, mm-hmm. And not necessarily have a barrier up of, I don't know if I fully trust you, I don't know if I like you, and so we'll see how this goes. Honestly, right away, it felt like a pretty great place just to walk in. So
awesome.
That was one of the biggest first pieces I noticed.
Awesome. So I have to give them a raise? Okay, I'll help them out. I'll make it rain.
There you go.
Awesome. No, I would agree. We do have an awesome team. Some of the team now have actually been former patients, and so they've been through the program. They know what it's like. They know what it takes. I would say we got lucky having this team come together, which, I've seen people just like give until they break here, which is what you want in a caretaker. But at the same time, we can't let that happen. We have to walk the walk, But thank you for that feedback. I appreciate that. So what else was different after that? After that first night, you guys talked about that. What else was different? What do you think contributed to these results that you've experienced?
Definitely the intensity of it. Obviously, just being here every day, 4 sessions a day. Being here for 3 weeks, I saw people come in once a week for treatments. And so obviously, I think just with my time frame, be able to really hit it just heavy-handed. Obviously very, very beneficial just to kind of get my body. And I think I was in a place that I needed a really hard kind of reset.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that definitely happened.
Awesome. So we call it the Neuro Reset for a reason, right? And to that point, right, the intensity happening, like we'll do very similar exercises. We'll hammer parts of the brain. Essentially, we hammer the whole brain 4 different times a day. We do that with exercise. We do that with laser. We do that with PEMF, with vagal nerve stim, with EWAT, so exercise with oxygen type of therapy, and then the shift wave stuff, right? Of the things that we did, what would you say would be your favorite?
Probably the shift wave.
Shift wave? Okay, awesome.
It really, at home when I was trying to figure out ways to help myself, when I would get into periods of like relaxation and feeling my body not be so tense, that thing gave that to me within minutes, which was great for me not to feel like I had to work for hours to achieve something.
Sure.
And just very much could feel a difference in my body.
Yeah. Which is pretty awesome. So what he's describing is this piece of equipment. It's called it's basically a big camping chair, like a zero gravity camping chair, and it's got these pucks, these vibration based pucks on them that kind of go up and down the spine and the legs. They call it's called pulse wave technology or pulse pressure waves. So it's different than vibration, right? It's like vibration is more like a power plate or like a vibrating plate. This is different. It's like way more. It's like softer.
Yeah.
But can be very intense at the same time, right? And so what it does is it basically activates the mechanoreceptors in your body to stimulate activity, right? So a lot of activity is more like running from a bear. And then it shuts off that activity and it helps you realize the difference between what running from a bear feels like and what calmness feels like. And I think that's so much of what the body looks for and what the brain looks for when it is running from a bear, based off whether it's a stressful situation or something like COVID or a head injury or numerous other things. But just to describe this shift wave technology it's hard to describe, isn't it? Right. And so, and even the owner or the reps from the company are like, let us just come by your office and show you. And I'm glad I did, because after I got on that machine, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Yeah. And so I had to get it. And it's like a $11,000 piece of equipment. And I'm like, I have to have that tomorrow. Yeah, and I figured out how to make it happen here, because I think it's like a missing piece of like that somatic body-based experience, because the exercises we do are more to rewire the brain, right? So we use a lot of eye movements, a lot of head movements, breathing exercises. We use body exercises, but they're not as intense as what other people may do, because a lot of our patients are fairly sensitive, right? So when you first started, how well could you get through what we prescribed?
I mean, I almost had to stop the first one because it was so intense.
Right.
But
and so what did you experience? Like, and I want to hear like the bad stuff, right? Like you almost had like panic after some of those exercises, right?
Yeah. So, with the eye movements, the first couple of days for sure. There was, again, I was sitting there the first day, I'm like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. You're like, what the hell is this?
The first time, I'm like, what is this really doing? But after the first day, I got home and I couldn't believe how just exhausted I was.
Yeah.
But through that, it definitely was interesting to see my anxiety tick up just by what my eyes were doing.
Right.
So that kind of triggered something in my brain, like, okay, this obviously is tied to something.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we kept going, we would introduce different types of eye movements. Mm-hmm. And I could tell when my body would start to tense up. It was
sure.
Very, interesting. And then obviously you as well walking around past and just saying you need to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So a combination of all that stuff is just, for me, it was a great helpful way to get my body just to understand all this and
Right on.
kind of
Yeah.
regulate itself.
I love it. So, a lot of people ask, a lot of other practitioners that do similar work to what we do, they do like the 1 week intensive. Mm-hmm. How well do you think that would have worked for you?
Probably not very well.
Right.
As I mentioned before, I wish I could have one more week. I think, 3 to 4 weeks would be a pretty darn good time frame, I feel like. But yeah, I think 1 week would have just kind of possibly even just opened Pandora's box and left me a little too...
Like rattled almost, right? Yeah. And so we used to do 1 week back in the day, like years ago. And then I moved that to 2 weeks a couple of years ago. And then very quickly we found that in that second week, people like start to get glimpses of their old self, but it was like not quite there. And then like early last year, I think January last year, we went to 3 weeks and the results just went through the roof. Because we were able to we were basically able to do a 6-month treatment program at twice a week and cram it into 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you can imagine having to wait 6 months for this result, but you can attain it in like 3 to 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, right? I'm blown away at what you guys can do. You know what I mean? It's like you come in and you're like, dude, I can't even handle this little eye movement or head movement. Like, this sucks. Like, but you're stuck here, right? So I'm like, I know I got you for 3, so we'll be good.
Yeah.
But that first week is really about creating comfort in what we're doing, creating and moving the needle, just unsticking the needle from that like fight or flight full sprint from a bear, right? So we just kind of like start to decrease that speed that you're running from the bear. And then that first weekend is usually where people are like, okay, I was able to do more, a little bit more. And you might have a flare, but you were able to do more, right? But there's a little crash because you're not stable yet. And that surprises people often is what we find is they're like, maybe I can do more than I thought, right? So there's that little bit of confidence that might like slip its way in there. And then week 2, it's like we start to push a little bit harder. And you're like, okay, I feel this, but I know what's coming, so I'm gonna be able to kind of stagger or curb how hard you put into the first exercise, or you're like, okay, I kind of got to pace myself throughout the day. Yeah. And so then, which is kind of a meaning of life in the sense of feeling terrible too, is you've got to pace yourself, but most people don't. You're forced to instead of realizing how to do it, right? And so usually at that end of this, like it's usually into that second week where we really start to see people start to come back. And then that second weekend, because you have 3 days off, because we're only Monday through Thursday. So you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday's usually a rest day. And then Saturday, Sunday is like, let's go and enjoy Arizona a little bit. Yeah. Even if it's hot in these summers, like there's still a ton to do. There's lakes everywhere. There's North Arizona. There's all sorts of stuff. And then that third week is like, I don't know. I almost feel like the third week becomes easier.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because you've now built up resilience, you've built up some stamina, you know what to expect, so that anxious thing of like what we're walking into isn't there. And it's like at that point, you've had a whole bunch of conversations with everybody, so it's like everybody knows everybody. It's like cheers, like we're talking about, like all we did was talk about golf today, basically. My staff forced me to review your results with you, basically here, and it's just so much fun for us watching you, I say Phoenix, right? Which is like a rise from the ashes. It's like so much fun to watch people come out of their shell from what they used to be, knowing what you could be. Yeah. Because all of you guys describe what you used to be like before. I used to tour with the band. I used to hang in Chicago. And it's like, when you get here, you're just a shell of yourself. That's what motivates us to do the work that we're doing and to just be like, yeah, fly over here. We'll take good care of you. Yeah. And, we take it personally. which is not a good thing, but we do. Like if we didn't get these results, because I purposely didn't have too deep a conversations with you after that first week, because I saw what it did. It rattled you, right?
Yeah.
So I stopped doing it. And what we do with certain cases, not every case, but the cases that seem to have a little bit of, call it trauma or major stressors going on, we pre-plan with one of our therapists that we work with in the Valley. And so we kind of just get that all scheduled out ahead of time, and basically try to make things as easy as possible for a system that just isn't firing on all cylinders yet. And so I left most of that in his basket. Mm-hmm. And he being a hypnotherapist here in town that we work with, I mean, what was your experience with him?
Yeah, it was pretty phenomenal.
Awesome. I love it.
And, when we were doing our intake and kind of talking through things, hearing hypnotherapy was a little,
right.
But man, it really made sense. And he just laid out exactly what it is, what we're doing, what we're trying to achieve. Working more on the subconscious mind and what's happening there. And so, but saying all that again, I don't think, as we were talking about before, I would have been able to handle that if I wasn't doing this here.
Sure.
Because I don't think my body would have been able to handle what we were talking through. So,
right. And so we call that Pandora's box, right? Trauma, all that stuff gets thrown into Pandora's box, and most therapy sessions just open it right up. Let's talk just briefly about, because we touched on it before, and you said you've tried that before, not necessarily hypnotherapy, but other forms of therapy. Yeah. What happened when you tried to do that last time?
Yeah, the last time I did it, I had a couple sessions through my work, so I was like, hey, let's give it a shot. The first session I did, I thought was great, and then the next day, actually ended up in the hospital with severe panic attacks and in a pretty bad spot. So I think that was, again, just my body not prepared to deal with what it needed to deal with at the time.
Mm-hmm. So would it be fair to say that there's a time and a place to work through trauma?
I would say so.
Yeah. I describe what our role is to a lot of people, and trying our hardest to have working with therapists is great. It's just hard to meet them where I feel like our patients need to meet them, right? Because they do therapy, so they're going to do therapy with everybody. We do neuro rehab, so we're going to do neuro rehab with everybody, right? We have way different levels that we can work at, and I'm sure therapists can work at way different levels. But to us, like, opening Pandora's box is opening Pandora's box. You just never know where it's going to go.
Yeah. And
if you can't handle it, you're going to flare, just like you described, right? Like putting and doing something that's supposed to help you and you end up in the emergency room, like thinking you're going to die, is not cool.
Not a good experience.
And it's not that person did anything wrong.
Not at all.
It's exactly what you needed. Mm-hmm. Just you weren't ready to go through Pandora's box. So what did we have to do? What did we do that got you prepared for it?
Yeah, I think just all this stuff here, and I could feel it probably about after a week, just my overall anxiety and how I feel. I just feel like my body's just stressed and tensed. And really after that first week, I could feel a noticeable shift in that, which again, I think allowed me to be able to then kind of shift into talking through some things.
Sure. So. Awesome. I love it. Well, number one, I'm super proud of you. I know this has been a long road, and thank goodness we had a really good relationship working with your family before this, and they vouched for us. So Thank you, all the ladies over there. We appreciate you. I appreciate you, and I know he does gratefully. Just knowing that there aren't any other clinics like ours in the country is what stinks, but it motivates me to make that happen. And so, and I know not everybody can do what you just were able to do. But I think over time, as people just keep seeing these results of like 30% to 80%, 10% to 70%, 60% even, we at least get the ball rolling to a point where you can now start to heal. Are we completely done? No. That there may be things that we're never going to get past, right? In terms of trauma or stressors, and that's okay. If you do all the other stuff now, you're just in a place to heal, at least keep yourself healthy, where before you just needed some help. And that's the that's the beauty of what I feel we've been able to achieve here is we put together the right people with the right equipment, with the right experience, the right colors on the wall, and I'm not trying to toot anything. I'm just saying I'm lucky that I've had the experience that I've had and met the patients that I've met that have checked me and made me go to school and made me go to more classes and made me figure things out so that we are in a position to be able to help you like this. So, and I appreciate you taking a chance with us. It's been pretty cool. So he does work in golf, by the way. If you guys need a club fitting and you're in the Florida area, he can get you hooked up. But there's one other benefit that I heard in this whole thing, which I'm going to do an intensive now because apparently it made him a better putter.
Oh yeah.
So the other thing was, what else did you say about the round of golf? It was the most what you've had playing golf in a while?
It was the most fun I've had playing golf in a long time.
Yeah. Right on. So let's go through a quick list of the things that you felt improvement with while you were here, kind of from top to bottom, and then I'll go over a little bit of the diagnostic stuff, and then we'll conclude this podcast.
Awesome. So I think the biggest one overall would just be the anxiety drop. Just my body feeling less overall anxious and tense, which is great. Some, like we talked about, some of the ways it would flare would be IBS symptoms and stomach problems. And really, before I got here, I was having issues almost every single morning.
Help us understand a little bit more. So I don't think you're shy on what that one is. Tell us what the intensity of what was So he's downplaying this a little bit, guys. What was going on for like the 3 to 4 weeks before you came in?
So it was waking up probably between 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning. Those panic attacks would kick in. I'd be thrown up for a couple hours, and then get the cold sweats, be dehydrated. So then my body would become even more tense. And so I would have days where it would honestly last almost 24 hours of just pure,
oh my God,
terrible.
I didn't know that part. I didn't know that part.
Yeah. So, it was pretty rough the last couple of weeks. And so that has been probably the biggest shift is just I've had 2 days where I woke up feeling a little off kilter and not feeling the best, but still not even to the extent of some of those really, really bad days.
Yeah. And then sleep. Tell me about sleep.
I was telling you, last night was the first night I can remember that I was actually able to fall back asleep, waking up, kind of at the 4 or 5 o'clock mark, which again, I haven't been able to do, and that would usually then set everything off. So after I woke up again the second time, I was like, wow, all right. So it was really, really exciting.
Awesome. So let's hit that list of stomach stuff, some energy stuff, anxiety stuff. What else?
Just honestly,
pretty straightforward with that.
Overall sense of well-being is great. Just kind of feeling like myself again.
Awesome.
Just hasn't been the case in a long time. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks for giving us a shot. I appreciate your hard work, and we're going to get you set up with the follow-up program. We'll check in with you like a week, make sure everything's going well. The adjustment going back is just going back to the real world. We just got to then work through it. So we're going to come up with a little bit of a game plan on how to look at everything. And it's like, because it's almost like vacation, like neuro vacation, and just getting back into the swing of things. We gotta talk. How are we gonna talk to your boss? Be like, hey, like we might want to just limit my hours a little bit. Make sure that like on a full day, maybe just go like 80% of a day, just like the 80% rule we talk about, until we get back into the full swing of things, right? Because you're still recovering, so we don't want to just go full go and make you crash again. we just build up to it. And so, but it's really fairly simple when we just have the right conversations with people, and it's really pretty easy to transition back. Okay. What time is your flight tomorrow?
11 in the morning.
11 in the morning. So you got to be there, 9 o'clock? Dang it. I was going to get you in for one last one on us. So if we were here early enough, I'd get you a couple of sessions in. But all right. Well, again, our joke this whole time is he's a man of the man of so many words. But, thank you for letting us work with you, and thank you for putting everything into it. And I'm happy for you that you got the results that you did. Okay.
Thank you.
So thanks a bunch, everybody, for tuning in. Stick around for the next one. We'll have one up soon, and we'll see you next time.